started. Hi, friends. Hi, friends. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Ashley Aireonna, joined by the wonderful Marco from Clutch Teen Sports. By the way, Marco, when if I write the description and then I at your channel name, do you get when people want to click on? I know a lot of people are here from Marco's channel, but if they want to click on, does it take you directly to them?
I
I
don't
noticed that
think
I could
so.
do
I
that
don't
the other
know.
day. Oh,
I've
because
tried it, but
normally
I
I
don't know.
spell it out. I go from Clutch Teen Sports, different words. But then I forget who I streamed with, but someone added mine and I got it as on my YouTube notifications. I got a notification. I was like, oh, maybe I should do it that way. I didn't know if that makes it easier for people to go back and forth to different channels. Anyways, that's a logistic thing that doesn't matter. What does matter and what we all obviously are here for is Taylor Swift released her album last night, and our entire show is going to be about that.
Promise it's not.
The Tortured Poets Society. It was so good.
If Ashley mentions Taylor Swift one more time, she's a Chiefs fan because she likes Travis Kelce.
I literally retweeted because, oh my God. Okay, really, I swear it won't be long on this, but the whole album was supposed to be a breakup album about her long-term relationship with Joe Alwyn that she had that no one ever knew about because he made her, oh, we hate him as Swifties. We don't like him. We don't hate him. He's whatever. He doesn't matter. He's just boring. And she's on to better. But everyone thought it was going to be a diss about him. And Marco get so mad he left because I started talking about Taylor Swift.
No, it was too. I had a fan on and it was too cold. I'm freezing.
Okay. I'm making this quick. Everyone thought it was going to be a breakup album about him. He's so boring that there was 2 songs about him and the rest were about Maddie Healy. And about I don't know if you've ever, how long, I feel like you said that you've been with your wife forever, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, some people they get in long-term relationships and then after you have the whirlwind kind of romance, you know what I mean? Because you're I'm here. This is crazy in the world. So she did that with Maddie Healy. And basically the whole album ended up being about him. And everyone was like, this is fucking objectively hilarious. Imagine if you're an ex-boyfriend and you're like, oh my God, Taylor Swift's about to write an entire breakup album about me. The only thing worse than her writing a breakup album about you is being in a relationship with her for 12 years and then you break up and the whole album isn't even about you because that's how insignificant you are. Funny joke. But everyone who was a Swiftie was like, are there gonna, I just hit myself in the face with this, was like, are there gonna be any songs about Travis Kelce? Because this album was written a long time ago. And there were 2 songs. And on Twitter, someone put Travis Kelce highlights, including they ended it with him in the Super Bowl against the 49ers, but it had this song that she wrote about him, which
That's
is
rough.
touchdown, blah, blah, blah. It's a good song. It's funny. It's
That's
a really
rough.
cheesy song. But they put it in the background, as it, you know how people have those sports highlights, but with the bam, 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 badass ones, they did that, but with Taylor Swift. And I definitely retweeted it. And then I was like, I feel like a bad 49er fan because this is highlights of him cooking the 49ers. But it's okay because we know if Drake was on the field, he wouldn't have been able to do that. Anyways, we'll move past that, but don't worry if you guys want to DM me and talk about Taylor Swift, I'm clearly open to it. But I actually ended up, because we're going to talk, the majority of our show is going to be about 49ers are drafting at pick, well, for right now, at pick 31 in 6 days. The NFL draft is coming up. I have some prospects that I want to ask you all about, Marco, because Marco is much more of an expert on these things than I am, but I definitely have gone through a lot of mock drafts, and I think just as people, we develop our own little crushes on prospects, whether or not they're rational or not. So I wrote down a couple guys that I'm gonna ask you about so we can talk about our favorite picks, basically picks that we wouldn't be mad if the 49ers chose these guys with their first round pick. But before we went into that, we had some breaking news that came out about Brandon Aiyuk today. And earlier this week, the offseason program started for the 49ers on Monday. And Matt Mayoko, our 49ers, what is his name? SF 49ers, Brandon. That's not his name. Who runs SF 49ers?
Brad?
Brad, that's what I'm trying. All of those guys, Matt Barrows, they all reported that Brandon Aiyuk was there and participating on Monday. And so I think I had a couple of shows where I was like, well, when you look at Justin Jefferson, Cowboys receiver, all those guys who are also up for contract extensions that haven't gotten them that yet, they did not participate in the offseason program. So when we had it reported to us that Brandon Aiyuk was there and participating, I thought, hey, that's a really good sign for Brandon Aiyuk. Today, it's on the timeline, and I don't know how you like decide who is correct on this or not, but John Francilino, he has like a ton of followers on Twitter. It says NFL Insider. He's had his account since 2019, so it's not like a fake account. He's reported on lots of other things. Publisher for All Sports, author, NFL Draft Analysis, NY Sports Insider. But anyways, he wrote this morning, breaking news, plot twist in my Brandon Aiyuk coverage. Contrary to reports which were spread to major media outlets, Brandon Aiyuk did not participate in the 49ers offseason program, which began this past Monday, April 15th. If you do your research, you'll see it was reported falsely everywhere that he was participating. These widespread reports were wrong, according to a closed source. But these, like I said, these were spread on RSF 49ers, Brad Graham, Matt Mayoko, and Matt Barrows.
Actually,
So,
no. Are you talking about our SF 49ers?
uh-huh.
That's not Brad. My bad. I thought you were talking about Brad, because that's the Brad. So Brad has the SF 49ers, which is the big, usually accurate one. The SF Niners. The other one
right?
is Raj. I don't know why I said Brad. My apology. That's my fault.
I think I asked you. I think I might have asked you wrong. I get those confused a lot. But either way, I mean, Matt Mayoko is, a guy who is very close with the 49ers. In my opinion, kind of potentially the 49ers wanted to get this out there that he was participating, because I don't see why Mayoko would falsely report on this. The other two kind of more aggregate websites, in my opinion, probably just posted that once they saw Matt did, because Mayoko is usually very respected. Why do you believe, I mean, and maybe this guy's wrong. I don't know. I know that I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I know you have some ties. Have you heard, and also I'm wondering, is there a difference in, did he attend the off-season program but not participate? Maybe it's just the wording that people are hung up on, because we've seen that with a lot of guys, right? It's like a hold in where you show up but you just don't work out.
Well, where did Matt Mayoko put this at, though?
I think it was on his Twitter and then he deleted it. But I know that it was on Matt Mayoko's Twitter, because when I did my show with Steph Sanchez, I had a little clip that I brought up. So I do know that at one point Mayoko did say that Brandon Aiyuk had participated. I think it might have been also in his podcast, 49ers Talk, that him and Jennifer Lee Chan do.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then Tom Jensen. Hi, Tom. Always get such great feedback after my streams with Tom. Wait, does this mean, do you have is your 6 days? I don't know if Tom Jensen's YouTube channel is up and running, but everyone go like and subscribe to Tom. I know that his goal is to get that going before the draft, but he says that Mayoko reported today that Aiyuk is not participating in the voluntary workouts. And all I'm saying is, earlier this week, Mayoko said the exact opposite. So, I don't know why he would have changed his mind on that.
Two ways I'll look at it. So the first guy you mentioned, what was his name? John? It wasn't the first guy that John Frisella. That he's been wrong on almost everything. Yeah, he's been wrong on almost everything he's talked about this offseason. Okay. Like he reported someone was signing. He reported someone was being traded. I believe he
just
covers
like looking for followers.
Yeah, I don't know if he's looking for followers, or he obviously has like you said, a couple thousand followers or whatever, 15,000 maybe. But it's like he's done a lot of like negative like stuff out there.
Like shady type
Um,
things.
yeah, like just trying to get people to like follow. I don't know if it's trying to get them to follow him or for him to hit on something where he looks right. I have not asked if Brandon Ayuk has attended or participated. From what I was told, is he was planning on attending. Attending is different than participating.
Yeah.
Participating is the way it was worded initially, and now with Matt Mayoka, the way you said it is Matt Mayoka say he's not participating. I don't know. I mean, I'm not too worried about it, especially because Brandon Ayuk's agent came out and said he he turned down trade rumors, which John Francella was actually one of the guys who was saying the trade rumor.
Yeah, I know that Chase got kind of hit in the head. Chase from Clutch, not from Clutch
Hey,
Team
senior.
Sports. That's Marco. But Chase Senior from Chad Sports um did like a video, but he was reporting on, I think it was this guy is the guy who actually put out the report.
And that
And
guy
Brandon
took the
Ayuk's
report.
agent went over and kind of attacked Chase, and Chase was like, "I didn't come up with this, dude. I'm just saying what was reported on." So
So, and that guy took the report from an article that was written by Jarrett Bailey. So, Jarrett Bailey's article.
what is up with this
So,
offseason?
yeah, yeah.
It's like a game
It's
of telephone, but through different media, and it's crazy.
so that's what it was. And then, like, the way Brandon, you don't come out and say something to lose leverage for your athlete who you're trying to get paid. Like, I know people are like, well, what if he's just trying to cover up for the Niners so they could find the best trade spot for him? Like, no, he's still not going to do something like that. If he wants out, he wants out. Like, you're not going to be like, hey, my player doesn't want out. Like, if he really wants out, he's going to get out. And I don't think the Brandon Ayuk thing is like that crazy. It is interesting though that it's now being reported as he did not participate in the start of the offseason program. I wonder if that's due to potential like an injury that
Injury.
picked up.
Yeah.
I mean,
If that's the
sometimes
case, if we don't even like you, I think that report is kind of being like, oh, he didn't participate. That means he doesn't want to be a 49er. But even if you take it down a couple levels and he wants to be a 49er, this is kind of where I go and I start criticizing the 49er, the organization. And I go, have you not learned if your intention is to keep Brandon Ayuk, look at Nick Bosa, who had one of his worst years and a slow start to the season, and himself admitted that his slow start was because he didn't train as much as he was supposed to, or and not. And we, when we think of Nick Bosa, we think of him as a hard worker. He wasn't half-assing it, but just naturally, as a player who has this much money on the line, you're trying to be careful. So you're not going 1,000%. And even if you are training, you're not interacting with Brock Purdy. You're not training with other wide receivers. Then you go, see more of an extreme Deebo Samuel, who really put a hold on his training. I just would start criticizing the 49ers organization for not getting this deal done sooner so that BA can kind of train with all of his teammates and give 100%. And once again, I'm not trying to say he would purposely not, but I just think that these things, unintentionally, you might kind of hold yourself back a little bit because you are scared of getting injured because so much money is on the line.
and I think when you look at the situation too, like that is true. Like the way they did Nick Bosa stuff, that is also a voluntary camp. This is not like mandatory camp. That's where it's like, okay, if he's missing mandatory camp, I don't think Nick Bosa's there. I don't think George Kittle's there. Is Debo there? Like a lot of players aren't there, but it's because Brandon Ayuk's contract is due.
Yeah,
That's where
people
everyone's
are
gonna
like
talk about it. Like,
slowly.
yeah, so like I'm not really like voluntary camp is just for you to
And he
get.
is working out. He put pictures on his Instagram.
Yeah, so we know he's staying in the lab. So I'm not too worried about it. I think the wording for me is what has me not worried about it at all.
Yeah, I like that. And then someone did say, "Wow, so he will have a slow start like Debo did," or, and I almost want to say not Debo because I think Debo really didn't train. Even when you watch that little video series that he did, he kind of openly admitted to putting his training off until after he got paid, and then trying to get in shape fast, which caused him to have a lot of injuries that year. But I look more at Nick Bosa, who is someone more like Brandon Aiyuk, where we trust him to be in shape. We trust Nick Bosa to go to the gym, to eat right, to take care of his body. But even he, whether it was a mental thing, whether it was not being with the team, he himself admitted that the contract negotiations and not being able to get that deal done earlier affected his stamina, his training, and his ability to perform on the field right away. Now, obviously, I think he got there more later down the year, whether that was because, the defense started clicking better or if it was just because he was more in football shape. Um, I definitely think that I definitely think that it's worth talking about. JDO does not think it's worth talking about, though. I'm not trying to generate traffic to my channel. I just thought, it came out. So something else that will probably piss off JDO, and I did send this to you, Marco. Um, I saw Brandon Aiyuk and people on this was not just me overreacting to this. I saw people on Twitter asking what this meant. And I actually thinking of trying to not overreact, thought I would go to the source of you because I thought maybe you would know and you did know. So BA put out on his Instagram gonna be fireworks in 6 days or something kind of like that. Brother said we got 6 days and it's fireworks. And it's Brandon Aiyuk up in the corner and another guy. It's a screenshot of a FaceTime. And a lot of people on 49ers Twitter were kind of freaking out and saying, oh my God, BA is hinting that in 6 days, which is the first day of the NFL draft, there's going to be a big trade coming and there's going to be fireworks, something big happening. Well, my first question, because he's had some other things that have been kind of misconstrued this offseason. So when I saw this, I thought, after BA's agent has came and poo-pooed all these trade rumors, why would then BA go on his Instagram and all of a sudden say, oh, look at the draft, I'm going to get traded, which obviously isn't the words he said. He said, brother said in 6 days, there's going to be fireworks. So then I look at the guy and I go, I don't know who that guy is, but maybe Brandon Aiyuk is talking about him. And why is no one else considering that? So I sent the screenshot to you, Marco. And who did you say that the picture is of?
It looks too much like Jaden Daniels to me. Like when I look at it, it looks like Jaden Daniels. I could be wrong, but look, Jaden Daniels has that same mustache and like little beard hair right here on his little goatee. It looks like Jaden Daniels to me. Jaden Daniels is also projected to go potentially number 2 overall. So that's fireworks right there. When
Oh,
you're
that
gonna
would
get,
be, yeah.
yeah, you're getting drafted 2nd overall, and they're really good friends. Like that's
So it's
fireworks.
possible that that screenshot that people are misinterpreting to being BA talking about himself and getting traded is actually just him giving a shout out to his younger friend, which is something
Yeah,
that
I think they
is
played at
very
Arizona
common.
State together, so they have a connection. So
Yeah.
also too, could you want to play with Jaden Daniels? Of course, you want to play with your college teammate. Which quarterback and receiver duo doesn't want to play together? Look at Derek Carr, Devontae Adams. Look at Joe Burrow and Chase. A lot of players like to go play with their college quarterback. So that's it's kind of, it is what it, like in that sense, like it is what it is. But I think it's more so him just shouting out Jaden Daniels, and
It's
I
just
don't
hyping
think
him
it's,
up.
yeah, and I don't think it's an attempt to for JDO. I don't think it's an attempt for her to bring like generate traffic. Like this is stuff that's going on,
It
and the
is.
thing
Like
is
and
with,
subscribe to my YouTube channel, baby.
and it's the thing is like with some people, you may not be, JDO may not be on Twitter, and like this is what's being talked about on Twitter at the moment. So that's
My
kind of
dad doesn't have
where it's
Twitter. He
coming from.
watches all my streams.
So that's
Love
where
you,
she's
daddy.
trying to
I got
report
you.
because that's where it came from. So shout out to her.
um, Thank you so much, Marco. But no, I mean, I did think that that was interesting. Also, you're right. A lot of people, I get comments all the time on either Instagram or Twitter saying, hey, I don't have Instagram. What does this screenshot mean? Or hey, I don't have Twitter. What's going on? So I like to, when we're talking about something, I want to actually paint a picture for people who might have not seen it. Um, Trying to make the Jane Daniels picture thing a lot. I mean, obviously, I think Ayuk isn't stupid. He knows that that's going to rile people up and they're going to be like, oh, what is he talking about? But I think he might just be giggling because he knows, hey, that's not actually what I'm talking about. So there's going to be people who fall for it and then he can kind of giggle at them. And then the people who get it, he's like, oh, yeah, they get it. But yeah, I don't think there's anything weird about giving a shout out to what this reminds me of. And this is so kind of more middle school, but did you ever, and this might be a girly type thing too, but did you ever like have a mini me? I remember when I graduated high school, I had like a younger girl that I had like grown up. I used to read to her. They had like a program where older students would read to
Oh yeah,
younger
yeah, like a
students.
book
And so
club.
like yeah, and so always growing up, like throughout middle school and everything, her name was Rose. Throughout middle school and everything, we would stay in contact. She was a couple years younger, and when she was in graduation, finally graduating high school, I remember I think like a week before graduation, I posted, I think on, it was like Facebook at the time, because this was before Instagram was really big. And I was like, oh, like, graduating this week. And I didn't mean I'm graduating this week. I meant my friend is graduating this week. So I definitely think that people who understood could interpret that right. And I think that Aiyuk is probably just giggling at the people that it does affect. I think that some people assume BA doesn't really like the attention because he is very shy. But I think he kind of has that sense of humor that he likes being able to kind of pull a little bit of a gotcha for people who do fall for these things.
He
I see
definitely
him.
has that.
I see
Definitely.
him giggling. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But before we move on to the main topic of our show to wrap up the Brandon Aiyuk topic, do you think that in 6 days after round one, because I'm under the assumption, no matter what delusional Steelers fan thinks that BA is going to go for a second round pick, I think after the round one, if BA is on the team, he's playing for the 49ers. Do you think Thursday night, Friday morning, Brandon Aiyuk is on the 49ers?
I think if Wednesday, I would go Wednesday. If Brandon Aiyuk is on the team after Wednesday, he's on
Oh,
the
really?
Niners.
You
So
don't
even
think it could be
before,
like a mid
I
draft
don't
thing?
think the Niners. No, I don't think so. I mean, I think teams will call once their pick is up. Like, hey, are you planning on moving BA? I don't think it's happening. Like, I truly don't. As long as BA is on the roster Wednesday, I think he's set on the roster. Like, I don't think the Niners plan on moving him at all, unless the team comes up with a 1 and a 2, where the Niners are very intrigued, or 1 and a 3, and it's very intriguing. Then they'll do it. But Brandon Aiyuk is more important to the 49ers this year than a
He's the
first
most
rounder or a
consistent.
second rounder.
Okay, this was my speaking of Tom Jensen, who was in our chat earlier. We had like a little Brandon Aiyuk debate 2 days ago, and that was my takeaway. I think right now, aside from maybe like the Bills, or like the Chiefs, who just don't have enough to give up, and I don't think the 49ers would do business with them even if they had the right pick, because that would just be giving one of your star players to your potentially biggest competition. I know most people kind of look to defeat their division, but I think the 49ers look a little bit bigger at this point, and they're like, all right. So I don't think they'd be willing to do business with the Chiefs anyways. So outside of like teams who literally could win a Super Bowl right now and need that number one wide receiver, so not Cincinnati because they have enough, skill position talent. So really, aside from like the Bills, I can't see a team that Brandon Aiyuk means more to right now. Because if you're looking at the Steelers, there's wide receivers in this draft that could be really good. They could end up being as good as BA. Maybe not, but I mean, the draft is a crapshoot, right? But there's people who are at least projected to be as good as BA or even better. And so if you're not going to win a Super Bowl this upcoming next year that's going to happen right now, then why wouldn't you just draft one of those guys instead of trying to trade for a guy that now you have to give a big value contract to? They don't even know, like, is Russell Wilson really going to take them to the promised land? I don't think that the Steelers, I don't know. Steelers should not have been in the playoffs last year. They got their ass handed to them in the first round. Kind of lucky for Mike Tomlin that he has been able to keep a winning record. But yeah, I just think that for most teams, it's more valuable for them to draft a rookie wide receiver and then have that person kind of come up with the building of their team. Where with the 49ers, yes, you and I have even talked about this. They do want to look long term and to kind of grow with Brock Purdy if their goal is to extend him long term, which Kyle Shanahan has came out and Jed Yorkis came out and said it is. But more important than the new generation for the 49ers is we must win a Super Bowl this year, because it's do or die for this year, for this core. And it's going to be embarrassing. And to me, there's no way that the 49ers can sell to their fan base if they trade away Brandon Aiyuk. To me, they're saying we're not competing for a Super Bowl this year, even
And
if
I
they
think
got a
that's
great wide receiver, because we know that Kyle Shanahan doesn't like. There's no one who's going to replace Ayuk's production this year. Down the line, maybe. And that's why if you're a different team who doesn't necessarily need to win the Super Bowl this next year, why would you want to give up that asset? Because you're like, oh, I'll just use this draft. I'll have a cheaper player for longer, and he'll be on the same timeline as the rest of my team. Where the 49ers, Brandon Aiyuk is more valuable to him. Don't you think?
Oh, absolutely. Brandon Ayuk's so valuable to the development and the process of Brock Purdy's development. And what I mean by that is we've seen what Brock Purdy is already. If you take away a receiver from him who was arguably your best receiver man to man, and you make Brock Purdy have to beat you in other ways rather than hitting your back foot and getting the ball out on time, in rhythm, with anticipation to a guy like Brandon Aiyuk, like we could see a guy like Brock Purdy who is in year 2 degress, and that we don't want to see any regression for your quarterback. So I think that is super important for your quarterback. But even then, to get back to the Super Bowl, you need a guy like Brandon Aiyuk to beat man-to-man coverage in the playoffs, late in the games when key situations. Like those are the guys you should be targeting, and I think that's the biggest thing on why I think Brandon Aiyuk is not going anywhere. Brock Purdy has to have some say into that situation, and I think not necessarily Brock Purdy saying, "Hey, I want Brandon Aiyuk on the team," but the idea of Brock Purdy developing has to be brought up.
Absolutely. And I think it was with you, I was listening to you and Jesse pointed out like when they traded away Stephon Diggs, even though Diggs was kind of a malcontent in the locker room, the organization, Buffalo Bills organization, consoled with Josh Allen first. So you would think, I know that, you know, Brock Purdy right now doesn't have the same cachet as Josh Allen, as a Patrick Mahomes, like as his star wide receiver. But I do think that at least the way that Kyle Shanahan talked about it in the owners' meetings, they are taking into consideration, what Brock Purdy wants and what he needs to develop best, and what gives their entire team the best possibility. And to me, just trading BA away right now just doesn't make sense. Like they don't money wise, they don't need to this year. They can move off of Debo next year. Even when they extended Debo, not this offseason, but the offseason, 2 off seasons ago. In that owners meeting, I was listening. I think it was Grant had like a video clip of it. And I think it was Nick Wagner asked about like, oh, well, if you do extend Debo Samuel, what does this mean for Brandon Aiyuk? Like, would you as an organization have to look towards moving off of him? Like, would it be a priority for you guys to keep him? And obviously this was a few years ago. But even at that time, Kyle Shanahan, drunk and hungover in, wherever the owners meeting was that year, was like, no, the way that we're looking to get it done, we would be able to keep, all our guys if they, performed and were important to us. I don't think at the time, I don't think he was like, we're 100% going to keep them all because that's just giving up leverage. But he made some mention of, hey, just because we extend Debo Samuel doesn't mean when Ayuk's time comes that we're going to move off of him. We really value him. And that was years ago. And they've continuously reiterated that. And I know from everything you've said from your sources, not to, put you on blast, but BA's camp feels semi-similarly. Now, I think that they probably try to get leverage and work back and forth. I kind of made a joke with Tom that within a 2-day span, what is his name for NFL Network? Adam Schefter came out and he wrote a tweet that was like, it's more important to Brandon Aiyuk to get paid than to stay with the 49ers. And so it was like, oh, like, maybe this is BA's camp putting pressure on the 49ers. And then it was like 2 days later, it was like, people are calling the 49ers, but the 49ers aren't answering the phone. And it's just kind of funny here. Like, I feel like both camps speak to each other through the media,
Oh, absolutely. And that's the way they get things through to them without having to tell them straight up. Is you see agents go to media, you see agents like that's who gets Adam Schefter gets his information from the agent. And so these agents are reporting to him so he could put stuff out there. And then the team was like, hey, Adam, say this. Like, this is what's really happening. Like, stuff like that. So I was like, not too worried about it. I think BA will be on the team. Not too, like, caught up with the BA stuff, only because I truly do believe he'll be on the team for multiple reasons. They learned from
I
the
feel like
Buckner
it'd be more fun if
situation.
we disagreed, but I agree with you. Now for the meat of our show, I have some people that I would not be mad if the 49ers used their first round pick on them. Now, some of these guys, I'm not, draft expert. So some of them you might have to trade up for. There's even one guy, a couple guys that we've talked about that I think you could trade back for. I, just as a fan, want them to pick in the first round. I don't want them to trade back. I know that there's like articles and research that have been done that it's actually more beneficial if you trade back, whatever. I don't care. I want them to be aggressive. I would be okay with them trading up as long as it was for, a position of need and a player that felt like a can't miss player. I know with these offensive linemen, um, there seems to be kind of a difference between there's like lots of good ones, but there's ones that can start right away, and then maybe some that are going to need some developmental time. But I'm just going to talk to you about a couple people. You can say maybe this isn't even realistic. But these are all from different mock drafts that I've read. So, whether it was trading up or whatever, people have associated them with the 49ers. So I want to ask you first about Jackson Powers Johnson, who is a center.
Center. He's a
Yeah.
center. Jackson Powers Johnson is arguably center one with Zach Frazier. And a lot of people were high on Zach Frazier and as well as Jackson. Well, why can I not brain fart? But everyone's like they're right there with each other. Some people prefer Zach Frazier. Some people prefer Zach Jackson Powers. I always call him JPJ. It's just easier for me.
No
and when
worries.
you're getting with JPJ, he's a guy who athletic, good hand usage in terms of he knows how to get his hands inside. He plays nasty. What I mean by that is he finishes blocks. And when you see offensive linemen finishing blocks, they're usually on top pancaking someone. That is a finished block. I think one thing that he does lack is his first step to get to the second level or to reach block isn't as great. But I think he makes up for that in terms of his athleticism is there. So so there's two different things that I watch him.
I wrote down he's good in the run game, which I know is something
He's
the
elite.
49ers really value.
He's an elite. He's overall he's a as Jason says, he is one of the generational talents in this class at center. I think him and Frazier are up there in terms of being as close to each other. That's what I like both of them. Zach Frazier getting more of a power guy. He has a good anchor, better pass protector, but he's also really good in the run game. So, like, if the Niners come with either of those guys on day one, I think it would be a little early for Zach Frazier, but I wouldn't mind it. I think Zach Frazier goes before 40, so I wouldn't mind it. Now, both of those guys could start immediately.
Are they both like projected to be there for that pick 31?
Zach Frazier's projected to be there as of now, like from everything I've seen.
Okay.
JPJ is not. He's projected to go a little bit earlier. So
My only thing is I do feel like some of these guys, like the reason I started with him, because I have another guy that I already texted you about, and you were like, he's going to go a little bit earlier, you think? But I just think with the talent that is here, some of these positions might be pushed down. And although offensive line is obviously going to be an area of need for a lot of teams, I feel like people look at center kind of as like the least important of the offensive line sometimes. You know
and what's
that, right?
crazy is
So
Kyle's talked about center being his most important
most
position on the
important,
offensive
yeah, yeah,
line.
yeah. So
So
that's
like
why
a
I
lot
thought
of
maybe
teams,
he might fall a little bit.
a lot of teams don't see center as like the most important position. Kyle's has mentioned in the past when he signed
Alex Mack.
Richburg,
Oh,
when he signed before Alex Mack was Richburg, he got hurt, and then he signed Alex Mack, and he mentioned center's the most important spot on my line. So
yeah.
if a guy like JPJ falls or Zach Frazier, it's kind of a no brainer. Like if those are those would be the best player available at that spot, and they would immediately replace Jake Brendel. Like they're a day one starter through and through, and you don't have to worry about them. They both have the IQ to call out pass protections and stuff like that. So if they do go center at that 31 overall pick, they're getting a center that could be, if Brock Purdy's around for the next 10 years, that center's around for the
Be the
next 10
center.
years.
I
Like as
like
long
that.
as they're healthy, that center is going to be along the ride as long as he's healthy.
And I also I had written down about him when you talk about Kyle saying that he thought center was one of the most important positions. He said, a big reason for that is the center's the guy who calls the protection plans. And then we've heard since Brendel has taken over and Alex Mack has retired, Mack was known to be very elite for that in his career. Since Brendel has been in there, we've heard that sometimes the protection calls have been on Brock Purdy. Other times, Juszczyk, when he's been in the line. He's been doing it. So I don't know if that means Brendel struggles in that area, or maybe it's more of a team effort thing because he's not as good. But something that in Dane Brugler, I don't know if I'm saying that right, his report when he was talking about JPJ is what you call him, right? He wrote that he's very good at diagnosing coverages, and he's young. So you imagine that he could even, improve in this. But he said that that was one of his most valuable assets, is how good he is at diagnosing coverages. He was able to start, make it through the seasons. And then also I have written down that he was able to play anywhere on the line. So he filled in at right guard and right tackle a few times just when they had injuries on his team. So I thought that was interesting. So maybe not something that you would want him to do all the time. It made me reflect too. If you remember when they got Mike McGlinchey, his rookie
Oh
year,
yeah,
they had him play. Was it at right tackle or something, or
right
right guard?
provincial was right tackle. Initially,
No,
the
but what
plan
did
was
he played at, like, right guard or something? They had him in a different place for a second there when they had some injuries. So I think it's good to be able to, if you draft a guy that can switch over in case there is that problem. You know, you like to have a, what is it, versatility.
And the thing is with the versatility is it's if the Niners felt like, for example, if the Niners felt Brendel was startable for one more year, JPJ and Frazier could both play guard. So like if in the future the Niners wanted
Do you
to,
think
um,
Spencer Burford is going to be on the team? Sorry for interrupting you. I'll be
he
better
will
about
be.
that.
He will be.
Okay.
You're good. He will be.
Yeah.
That's a good question. He will be. I don't see how they move off of him. He could play tackle. He could play guard. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
who's going to beat him out? That's the thing.
I didn't know
It,
if they're going to start John Fleet, because they kept John Feliciano, even though he kind of put him under the bridge on Twitter.
but then the thing that Niners did though last year is, and they've done it in the past as well, is they keep one guard or one interior guy, and then they keep a right tackle as a backup and a left tackle as a backup instead of having a swing
Okay.
tackle. So I think he'll be one of those guys that keeps it because of the versatility. But it's a great
That's
question.
interesting. I like that. Okay. And then so that was one guy I had written down. And then I want to ask you about the guy. Sorry, I was going through our text and you talked about Taylor Swift being mid, and I just started seeing red, and but we're not gonna make this a Taylor Swift show, even though I want to. My eye was just switching. Uh JC Latham. I think the 49ers should trade up for him. You told me, you kind of LOL'd at my text and we're
No,
like, he's
I didn't LOL. I just it was more so because he's like very like you're right. Like if you're gonna trade up, it's for a guy like him, a guy like Troy Fatanu, um, and he's probably gonna be gone. I mean I'm not crazy high on
Marco's
him.
like, no, no, no. Oh, you're not? Okay, tell
I'm
me
not
about him as a
crazy high on
prospect
him.
for people who don't know.
I feel like he
I'm
in
one of
the
those
run
people who
game
don't
he
know.
in the run game he doesn't keep his blocks. Like he has an
Mm.
issue holding those blocks in the run game. He bends at the waist to like when he's engaging the defenders, he bends. And then he isn't that good with counters as a pass protect. Like in pass pro, if you counter him, you're probably gonna beat him. Besides that, like he's really good. Like I don't want to like talk like I'm
Why
talk
is
heck
he
down on him. He's
projected
a
to, like, go so high? Do you like, what are the pros
natural
that other
natural athleticism, strong hands. He has a very good anchor. So when he does latch on, and his athleticism, like his ceiling is solid. Like he's when you're looking at a top first round pick, 6'6", 340, 35-inch arms, 11-inch hands, like that's kind of something you're like, okay, like you have all the intangibles. Your film shows that you could work on keeping your blocks and keeping your feet driving. We could work on the bending at the waist, and we could work on you going against counter moves. So teams could work with what he has and mold an all pro player.
Do you know, I know Steph Sanchez keeps track of these things. Do you know if the 49ers have, like, met with him or guys like him? Like, do you get the feeling that they would be open to trading up for a guy if they fell in love with one of these offensive tackles, or do you think that they're more so gonna, let the draft fall to them? And if they can get a offensive lineman that falls to 31, they'd be more likely to do that.
For me, I don't think so because the way I was explaining it on Jesse's show yesterday is if we do trade up, we're probably gonna have to give up a one because we're at 31. So if you're trying to get into that 15 range, you're gonna have to give up something more. And a team would probably say, you know what, give me pick 31 and a future one. So do you want to give up future one? Like that's where team building comes into play. Like you want to make sure you
Yeah.
have
You want to
for
keep
the
your
future picks in the future. So I'm just kind of concerned on Niners moving up because they'd have to give up more than just one pick, and that's where I would either sit pat or trade down.
This is a hilarious comment. JC got that
He
big butt.
does.
That's great for center of gravity in pass protection. Okay. And then so really quickly, when I wrote down about Latham, I also in a couple mock drafts I've seen Mims and I've also seen King Kingsley. Now my problem with both of these players actually is ironically kind of what you just said when you were talking about Latham, which is that you actually feel like there's more development for him to have to go through in order to be where the 49ers would want him to be. And I would be hoping, if you're trading up for a guy that he's pretty much, ready to go right away, a
In the
can't miss
in pass pro, I
prospect.
should say in pass pro, JC Latham doesn't have much to improve on. Like it's more so working on counters. Outside of that, it's more so the run game.
But the thing is, the run game, I feel like, is the most important part for the 49ers. Just when they're drafting people, it feels like that's what they value.
They prefer
Um, Now, I know your guy, and we'll also talk about Mims. I know Tom was in the chat earlier, but your guy, I'm not gonna try to say his whole name, but
Kingsley
Kingsley.
Suamataya.
There we go. Wow, you say that flawlessly. Sumayataya?
Suamataya.
God, that feels racist. Just me fucking up on it feels bad. So I'm sorry.
I
I
think I'm
apologize
saying it
for that,
right. I
man.
mean,
I think you
I've
are.
looked at the
I meant
pronunciation.
me. I feel terrible trying to say that. I'm sorry. All respect to this guy. Although I am about to poo-poo him, because I know that you're high on him. So I have that he's very tough, has great physical assets, but then also in the Dan Brugler report, he wrote a note that he'll need a patient team that's going to be willing to help him in transition. And I could see this going both ways for the 49ers. So I'd like your opinion on it. My first instinct when I read that was the 49ers are not a patient team. And Kyle Shanahan gets very frustrated with players who, aren't at the level that he expects them to be at. But then I took myself back a second and I thought of a guy like Aaron Banks who took a year and the 49ers did bolster their offensive line, whether it's not, whether it's up to par with what fans expect. I think the 49ers did what they needed to do to at least not to feel like they absolutely needed to draft a guy. So I think they are actually in the position where if they wanted to redshirt a guy or slowly work a guy in, we saw them do that with um Spencer Burford, where they were having him go in and out. So actually kind of talked myself down because my immediate reaction when I saw a patient team was, well, that's not the 49ers. And then I thought about it a little more clearly and I was like, well, maybe I'm a bit biased. Maybe the 49ers could be a good organization. I think we have a really good offensive lineman coach. Chris Forrester is very good. And we've seen, at least when I look at Aaron Banks, I think his development has been, wonderful. So how do you feel about Kingsley? A lot of draft boards have him going at like 40. So I don't know if he would be a guy. Could the 49ers trade back a little bit? Or maybe they want that 5th year option. We're seeing that can be, helpful in negotiations right now with Aiyuk. Do you think that it would be a reach to get Kingsley at 31? Do you think that's something they might do?
Mm-mm. I don't think it's a reach at all. I think Kingsley's going to go in that right after that first round. If he doesn't go in the first, he's going to go. So looking at the picks, the draft picks, I think he could possibly go top 35. So like 4 more picks after, just because I'm looking at the where
Imagine you
teams are
doing a
picking.
draft live because you're doing it with Jesse, right? Imagine you're
Yeah,
doing imagine you're doing a live draft and then 49ers, it's like doo-doo-doo, they've traded back freaking 4 picks. So you have to wait a whole entire day. So just so
and
they
what sucks is I'm not going to be live that Friday. So I was telling Jesse what sucks is if the Niners don't pick on the 30 at 31 or in that first round, I have to wait Friday. Watch them pick.
Yeah, by
I'll
the
be at
way,
a
M-
winery.
Marco and I
Go
are
ahead. Go.
going live on Saturday instead because he is ditching us to go get drunk and crunk. I'm just kidding. It's your wife's birthday, right?
Yeah, my wife's birthday, so I'm taking her out to we're gonna go to Lodi, we're gonna go wine tasting, cider
Love that.
place, and then dinner on the place is called Dinner on on the Water or something like that. Pretty cool spot.
Ooh,
So a couple of us are going out there.
love that.
So that's what I'll be doing. So we'll be covering Saturday's draft live Saturday morning.
Mhm.
Um, Ashley might not be able to wake up early, so if she doesn't wake up early, I'll be up. I mentioned in the start
I'm going
when the draft
live. I'm
starts.
going live. I'm going live. I'm
So
going
I'll be
live.
live. I messaged her. I was like, you know what, draft starts at 9. Let's probably go 9, 8:30. She was like, that's a little too early, don't you think? I was like,
I just
well,
thought
I
that
guess you'll be asleep.
on a Saturday won't want to do that, but I maybe I was wrong.
Nah,
Let,
a lot of
let me
people will be
know.
tuned in.
Let me know in the comments. Are you guys going to tune in Saturday morning for our instant
Yeah,
reaction to round
9
one?
o'clock, guaranteed. They'll be there, guaranteed.
Okay. All right. All
Trust me.
right. All right. Um, so we talked about them, and so you do think that the 49ers could go Kingsley at 31. Now I want to ask you about Mims. I've seen good things, I've seen bad things. My hesitation and the reason that I would be concerned if the 49ers did get him is just he's had very little playing experience. Now, maybe it's one of those guys, he has amazing potential. When he has played, he's done very well, and he played very well on a good team against good competition. So that is, very promising. But I think I just have a little bit of like Trey Lance or something PTSD where I'm like, don't draft for potential. No, don't do that.
And
Obviously,
you sort of are like you have to have that mindset in the sense of the Niners would be taking someone very early, who hasn't played well, at times, who only has limited reps. So you're kind of projecting. Projecting in the first round is not what I want to do. I want to have someone who has at least enough film where I could project him to be something. We're going off of a very limited amount of reps, and when you watch that, he stops his feet during blocks. He's a two-handed puncher. I think his and when I look at him, his athleticism isn't as good as I would want it, but he also is 6'8", 350 or 340 around that range. But
tall as hell.
if he hits his um ceiling, easily a Pro Bowl talent. But he's been often injured, doesn't play much,
Don't love that.
and he is a raw talent in terms of needing to learn the offensive tackle position. That's where I'm like, you know what?
Very.
The Niners should probably stay away. Same thing with Tyler Guyton. Stay away. Those two guys are projects. And if they don't hit on them, fans are going to be like, the Niners don't know how to draft. They took Tyler Guyton, which everyone wanted at the time. Everyone wanted Mims
Yeah.
at the time. And then they end up missing on it because you're projecting them to be something in the future and hoping they stay healthy. So I would honestly stay away from those two guys. And if no one else is on the board, if it's those two, and then off guards or whatever, I would probably go the guard who I know is a surefire pick.
More of a sure. I like that. I like that. I've kind of agree with you. The more that I've paid attention to the draft, I think I'd rather pick someone with more film, even if they show some flaws, than someone that has less film and 90% of how good they are is my projection. Just because. I mean, isn't that the thing? That's like in relationships is the same thing, right? Like when you're just getting to know someone, you're like filling in all the gaps with all your best thoughts because you don't actually know them. So you're just like romanticizing, anything that you don't know, you're giving them like the major benefit of the doubt in. You're like, oh, I
Mm-hmm.
bet they're great in this area. I bet they're great in this area. It's like, well, once you get to know a full person, yeah, maybe there's some like downsides and maybe there's some upsides, but at least you're like, you have a more accurate representation of who that person is versus just you projecting. And then you get to know them and you're like, oh, all these things that I imagined, I was just writing a story that wasn't there. And, you know, that's what you get on this channel. Are we talking about love gurus or draft crushes? I don't know.
I mean, it's pretty much
Anyways,
the same thing. You're projecting them to be your future. So
um, if the 49ers don't end up going offensive line, because you and I have talked about this a lot, high offensive line class, a lot of people going to be looking at the quarterbacks as well. There's going to be some good position groups that are pushed lower down in the draft. Now, whether or not all these guys are going to be there or not, I'm not sure. A guy that I had written down, because I've seen it in a couple
Shout
mock
out to
drafts.
Leroy. He said, "Really, Lodi? Really?" Nah, see, I let her choose.
Lodi, you
She
need
wanted
to
to choose.
choose.
She found a spot that she liked that
Where's
has
Lodi?
wine. Lodi is right after Stockton, right before like Sacramento area. But she found a spot that does wine and cider. So she liked it. She got to choose.
Okay, okay. There you go. There you go. Um, it's okay. Marco just didn't want to come say hi to us. I could have met your wife, told her happy
Shout out to
birthday.
brother
Fine.
Bob. What up, man?
Hi, brother Bob. How are you doing? Okay. So if they end up not going with an offensive line pick because, um, let's say the only guys that are left are maybe more projections and they want to get more of a sure thing. A guy I've written down is Nate Wiggins. He's a corner, super fast. He's really small, and that does make me wonder, like, did he run that fast because of how much weight he lost? Because at his pro day, he did gain a little bit of weight and he didn't run on his pro day, but he's not even 21 yet. So you have to imagine that he's going to be able to gain some speed, which will be really nice. Everyone say what's up to Brother Bob. Also harass him. I think I'm going to be doing a show with Brother Bob in the future. I feel like that would be fun.
Let's go.
But yeah, so Nate Wiggins, uh, very fast, physical, but can get put, even though he, like, his mindset is tough, he's small, so there's instances of him getting pushed around. But then at the same time, to counter that, not even 21, maybe he can build some muscle on his frame. What are your opinions on Nate Wiggins? And maybe can you tell me some more about him?
I think he could add a solid 10 pounds and he'll be fine. I want to
Okay.
say he measured in at the NFL Combine at 6'1", 173, which is pretty light. The issue
Yeah.
is more so length, 30-inch arms, smaller hands. But when you watch him, he has the football IQ, competitiveness. In my opinion, I think he has a long speed. People don't think he does. So that's when I watch him. He tends to shy away from in run defense. Um,
Ooh,
Ideally,
we don't love that for the
I
49ers.
you don't ideally he's a cover 3 guy on the perimeter. Playing cover 3 doesn't I didn't really see him get up in man. He could play it, but they didn't do it as often at Clemson. They had him more in the zone. Um, and when I did see the man coverage reps when he was in press and off, it was pretty solid. Like it wasn't like he can't play it. So depending on where he goes, he could definitely outrun Trent Taylor because Trent Taylor's not going to be on the roster. But when as we're going and we're watching Nate Wiggins, is I would be more happy to get Nate Wiggins than a guy like Cooper DeJean.
Okay,
And
I
I'm
have
not
Cooper DeJean
big,
written
and
down.
that's
Is it just because
why I
he's
mentioned
white?
it. No, it's not because he's white. It's corners can't be white. That's the stereotype, right? It's not for me. That's not what I'm looking at. I just when I watch him, a lot of good things. Right, in more so the athlete
I feel
wise
like you
and
just listed a
in
lot
the
of
run
bad
game.
things.
But when you watch him, is tight hips. Um, he's not comfortable when his back's to the quarterback. Lack of transition from breaks, like out of breaks.
Is this
When
Cooper?
you watch him, this is Cooper. This is pure Cooper. I think he's personally strictly a zone corner. I don't think he is comfortable in man coverage. He didn't look
Yeah, neither
comfortable when
one
I
of them at
watched him,
49ers.
and I think when you draft a corner who isn't comfortable in man coverage, um, you are essentially putting your defense to be in only one coverage or two coverages here and there because you're going to be in zone majority of the time. And Niner fans don't like being in zone, right? Like
No.
you, every time we watch a game or fans watch a game, they see the
I feel like
corner
we're, like,
sitting at
yelling to
10
get
yards,
man.
8 yards, and they're sitting and they're giving up the underneath. Um, we want corners to get in press a lot more. At least the defense does as well. So I think that's the issue with the 49ers right now. It's get a corner who could do everything. A corner who could play man and zone. Cooper DeJean is actually should probably move over to safety in the NFL, and he may even be that star role for a defense. I don't think it's what the Niners do. That's just my opinion.
I could see the 49ers even needing a safety, but you're right. Like, I don't think that
Oh,
they would wanna
geez.
choose a safety there. Um, I don't know. You're getting lots of interesting comments. I will say, brother Bob said they really like your back. He really likes your background. Someone up here also commented that they liked your background, so you've gotten a couple of those, and then you have my dad just randomly throwing shots at Lodi. Um, um, okay, and then another guy that originally I spoke highly of on my show, and I definitely want to talk to you about. I saw that your friend David Leakchi, am I saying that right?
Lichty,
Yes.
Lichty. I don't know how to
He
say his last name. I say it wrong all the time. My
he
apologies,
uh
David.
he mocked Adonai Mitchell to the 49ers. Now, I've heard him comp to Brandon Aiyuk. Um, Lots of good things is what I've heard written about. Seeing even PFF has him as the number 4 wide receiver in this draft class. My only problem is I have a friend, Michelle. A lot of you guys might know her because she does do a show with Rob Stats Guerrera, but she is a Texas Longhorn fan. She also does stuff for the NFL, so she has an eye for these things. And she said the entire time that she was watching the Longhorns, she never saw I'm trying to ignore whatever you and brother Bob have going on. Um, um, I don't want to read the comments. I'm scared of what's going on in there. Anyways, she said that when she was watching the Longhorns, she felt like Adonai Mitchell was very inconsistent. That when she was watching him, there's certain players that she would see. For example, she really likes the tight end that played for the Longhorns. Um, but she said there's players that when you're watching them, you go, "Oh, they're gonna go to the NFL and they're gonna perform well." She said when she saw that Adonai Mitchell was not only projected to, go to the NFL, but to be drafted so highly that she was shocked that she thought he never stood out like that in actual games. Now, I don't know if that's just her being biased. What's going on? Um,
No, I
what
think
is going
so.
on?
What it is when you watch Adonai, you do see him take plays off every once in a while. But he also played with Quinn Ewers, a quarterback who I don't think is that good. When I watched AD Mitchell,
Yeah, tell me about AD
I
Mitchell. I'm gonna
personally
ignore the
think
comments and I'm gonna ask
he
you about AD Mitchell. I just hid
I
them.
personally think AD Mitchell is a top 3 receiver in this draft. I don't know how he falls to 31. If he does, it's a no-brainer. I think he is a true number 1 receiver in a Kyle
Why does
Shanahan
my
offense
friend
or in
think
the
he's
NFL.
not? Why did he
Everyone,
apparently
but thing
not
is though,
perform in
everyone sees things differently. When I see him,
okay.
I see a great route runner, high IQ, could track the ball well, very naturally naturally a natural mover. Like it was very fluid in
Okay.
and out of breaks.
Yeah.
Um, I
I
would
mean,
like
I
to
heard
see him.
he was comp to Brandon Aiyuk. Like a lot of people were
I
saying,
actually had someone give me the comp of as a route runner, CD Lamb.
"Oh damn,
And CD
that's really
Lamb is a great route runner. So like
yeah, yeah, yeah."
I heard that one like, oh damn, that's a pretty good one. Um, I would like to see him be more physical. I would like to see him. He does catch well at the high point against 50 balls. Like he does do that well, but I would like to see him do it even better at 6'3" or 6'2". I personally think he is a day one starter in the NFL. I think he is the number 3 receiver in this class over Dunze and a couple of the other guys. I think he is a certified receiver one. Um,
Okay.
so I'm interested to
So
see where he
you would
goes.
not be mad if the 49ers picked him. Matter of fact, you think he'll go earlier than 31.
I think he'll go earlier. I think he could possibly go as early as 15, or
Mm,
even to the
wow.
Bills at 20. But the Bills draft
Bills
like
could
at
be
20
smart.
something.
Those could be smart.
So that's where I think he could go. I think he would solidify himself as a first rounder when he ran that 4.43 speed. He plays like that on film. It's just when you go back to watch Ewers is consistently underthrowing him or throwing bad passes when it's to AD Mitchell. I think that's where the thing for me
It
is
might be more of the
when I
quarterback
watch. Yeah, like when I watch, it was like, all right, this is the quarterback is not that good, and
strat.
so and even too, like Kyle could use him in motion a lot, pre-snap motion, stacked
If they do
alignment.
move on from Debo Samuel, like I know that a lot of this is me hypothesizing, but if they do extend Brandon Ayuk, move on from Debo Samuel, is having Adonai Mitchell and BA as your wide receiver 1 and 2, is that a good, like, did their skill sets go? Yeah.
Possibly, you possibly have the best 1-2 punch in the league in the next 2 years. Like that's how good of a receiver room it would be. Yeah, his
Oh
QB
yeah,
was trash. Like without saying
yeah,
it
everyone.
respectfully.
his QB was trash. Apparently, people are okay. So yeah, I wonder. That's so interesting.
But
With
people were
my
saying that Adonai might fall, like, or at least I saw a report that he might fall, with quotation marks there, because of his diabetes, which I disagree with because
diabetes.
yeah, he
What?
has diabetes, and I guess he doesn't take care of his health. So I think
I don't think
that's where
that's
people
true, right?
were.
To be an NFL
I
player.
don't I don't think it's I don't know, it could be, like, who knows, like, it could be, but I don't see that as being true. Like, they said, like, "Oh, he's not a hard worker," and stuff like that. That was the report that came out recently,
I
and
don't.
I
I
disagree
think
with the report.
that's people trying to lower his draft stock because we've heard that. I mean, I obviously that's a hypothesis, but we've heard of teams doing that, trying to trash a player so that the player falls to them. Haven't we heard stuff like that before in the draft? That's common that teams do that to players because there's no way you're not a hard worker if you're a college wide receiver who's making it in the first round of the NFL. You know what I mean? And if he has diabetes, but he's able to train the way that he's able to train, able to run the way that he's able to run, like he must be taking care of that because he has to fuel himself properly in order to do that. So I don't know. To me, that sounds like a team that's maybe trying to lower his draft stock so they
I
can
think
get
it's
him.
agents. Agents do that. Agents are jerks about it. Where, and for example, another agent who his player's not getting love,
Mhm.
brings that guy up and like throws something like, "Hey, talk about this," so he could fall. My guy could go earlier. Um, Agents are jerks, man. Like they really play
Interesting.
dirty at times.
I hate. I don't like that. That stuff bothers me. Okay, I have two more guys that we'll go over before we'll end it, and both might be a little bit. If my dad's in here, he might throw his head against the wall or something, because they are D tackles, which I know is frustrating. I get frustrated when I think of the 49ers using their first round pick on the defensive line, not because it's not an area of need, because actually, especially looking after this year, it definitely is. And the guys that they got in are more depth guys, anyways. But just I'm like, oh, they've spent so many resources on the defense. I just want them to go offense. But I will say these two guys look pretty good. So I want to ask you about them. Johnny Newton is a D tackle. He had 7.7.5 sacks in just 12 games last year. He had 22 sacks for loss in the last 2 seasons. He has no injury history, stayed on the field the entire time, but his big kind of red flag is he is undersized. So, that's the notes I have as my as a not draft expert. I'd love to ask you about him.
I think he's a solid player. Now, he's a lot of people do say he's undersized at 6'1", 304, 304. I want to say he weighed in at 304 at his pro day, 302. May have been less. But I do like him against the run. Very good. Has natural leverage because he's a smaller guy. But he has good bend for being a big dude. He has a motor for being a bigger dude. There's plays where he is tracking down the offensive running back or receiver 15 yards down the field, and he's making a play. Um, when I watch him, his production is good. I wish it would be better, as a defensive tackle one.
Okay.
For me, one of the ones where he and Byron Murphy are the top two defensive tackles. Byron Murphy is much better of a defensive tackle, in my opinion, and I think that's where, um, there's two things when you look at defensive tackle. Do you want a run defender or an overall player? And I think he is a slightly better run defender than Byron Murphy, from Texas. But as a pass rusher, I'm taking Byron Murphy all day, every day. I think when I watch Johnny Newton, he's going to be a guy that doesn't succeed as great as a pass rusher in the NFL. So it depends on what you want as a defensive tackle. I think I personally would take him at 31. I don't mind it, but I don't think he's that kind of dude at defense at pick 31. I think he goes earlier than that, actually, like, because teams value defensive tackles, and this draft class doesn't have many defensive tackles, that you could grab that early.
I agree. I like learning. So you named two players that you said are the top two. I have a Chop Robinson written down. You don't. Now I wrote that he has experience with the wide nine. He doesn't have a lot of action, but I wrote down that it might be more because he was in a rotation and he's only played 1 year. But you just shook your head. You're not down with Chop Robinson. Let me know.
No, so when I watch him, I see lack of length. I see for him great one of the best first steps in this draft class. Explosive, explosive, explosive. Doesn't have pass rush moves. Um, cannot play the run. Where he at least doesn't identify run situations. Um, he is a guy that's probably going to be a speed guy only, and that's where I see him. And I'm like, yeah, no. If you don't have any pass rush moves, you're smaller. You're on film. Your lack of length it shows. That's from like, I don't know about that. Can't shed blocks. So that's for me where I'm a bit worried. I don't think Chop Robinson's as good as he's being talked about. So
Okay.
pretty much just like me and Jesse were talking about it the other day, and we both have this same kind of opinion. I would rather him go to another team and be a straight stud than us draft him and him be a bust, because the likelihood he's a 50. So with him, he's 50-50. He's boomer bust. Like there's no in between. A boomer bust. And I would rather see him go somewhere else where a
And
team
be
takes
good,
the
then take
risk,
the
yeah,
chance. Yeah,
than
yeah,
us
yeah.
take the chance and then him end up being a bust with us. Like I don't want that. Like now the ability, the complementary piece that he would be to Nick Bosa is phenomenal. I just don't see myself taking him at 31 because there's going to be other guys who, in my opinion, are better than
Is he
him.
projected to go that high? Like, could he
He's
be someone
projected to
that
go pretty
they?
high.
So he's not someone that they could end up getting in the second round.
No, he's for sure a first rounder just because of what he ran and his speed off the edge. But like that's the downfall of drafting in round one. You're drafting for upside, and I think that's where it kills him.
Okay. Okay. That makes sense. Well, those are the guys that I have written down. Do you have any one or two players that you'd like to shout out before we wrap this up?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and give
Did
my
I have
guy Bo
good did I
Limmer.
have good did I have good people written down?
Oh yeah, you had some good people. You had a lot of guys who could potentially be drafted by the Niners, and that's what's kind of
That's
cool
me.
to be able
I'm
to.
just a good researcher. Don't worry.
Hey, it is what it like. You did your job. You did your homework. You're able to bring some good talent to the
That's why you
conversation.
guys like and subscribe, baby.
I would shout out Bo Limmer, 6'5", 300-pound offensive line center,
Oh,
extreme IQ, good in zone, has the range and to get to the reach block and get to that 3 tech when he needs to. Good timing on his punches, really good anchor. However, he's been getting killed because he's the one who got ran over by Tavondre Sweat at the Senior Bowl, but he's a really, really good center. His film shows a starting level center. I mean, you could probably get him in round 4 or 5. So I'm gonna shout him out. A guy
hey.
later in the draft, receiver. I'm not gonna name any of the guys. I'm gonna tweet out. But I'm gonna go ahead and those guys are gonna be on my list. But Cornelius Johnson, a receiver who has speed, has the size and everything, could be a dude who
Corner,
could,
you said?
no receiver. Cornelius
Okay.
Johnson
Cornelius. Okay, that's where I heard it from. I was like,
over the middle. He could be your Jawan Jennings when Jennings leaves.
oh, Brother Rob says he likes Johnson. Okay. I like this. And I like looking at a Jennings replacement because Jennings won't be on the team after next year.
Yeah, so
Hell yeah.
that's something to look forward to.
I like that. And you and I will be previewing, we'll be reacting to who they choose on day one and everything. And then round two will be happening during part of our show, you think? Or
No.
when does it
So
start?
so we'll be when we go live on Saturday. We will
Yeah.
be covering. We'll be obviously talking about round 1, 2, and 3, and then rounds 4, 5, 6, and 7 should be all live during that time, depending on what time when we draft.
There we go. So that'll be really exciting. I'm hopeful that the 49ers get an offensive tackle in the first round. That is my hope. But honestly, I think they're in a good position. I know I saw you and Rohan kind of talking about it, and Rohan was team trading back being probably the best thing to do. And you kind of said like you think that the 49ers could actually stay pat at where they're at and just go best player available. I wouldn't be. I will say this seems like a really talented draft class, and I knock on wood, unless they just pull something super stupid, I think that I'll be pretty happy with what they end up doing in round one because they seem to have a lot of options, whether they do go forward and attack someone, and even if they do stay there, I think that because there is so much quality, I think good players are going to be pushed down the draft board, and hopefully we'll be getting a good guy. This draft is going to be really important for the upcoming seasons for the 49ers, not just this one, but I'm very excited. Everyone have a wonderful weekend. Make sure you listen to Taylor Swift.
Oh jeez. Oh jeez.
Like and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Ashley Aireonna. Like and subscribe to Marco's channel. He's going to be going live during the draft. Maybe I can bother Brother Bob to say that 12 times fast to
I will
go live
also
with me.
just real quick before we end it. Sunday, I will be live at 6:00 with Eli Harold, former 49er linebacker, outside linebacker. So if you guys want to stop in, ask him a question or two. So if you guys want to tap in, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, drop your questions, and we'll go ahead and ask Eli Harold some questions, man.
Oh yeah, way to go, way to get that. That's why you guys gotta like and subscribe to Clutching Sports, and then for my channel, just for the Taylor Swift references, which is clearly why Brother Bob is here.
See.
And then Ninercast, everyone, make sure to like and subscribe to his YouTube channel too. Got a lot of great comments. I don't know if you read them, Tom, on our show that we did a couple days ago. And Tom and I will be going live the day before the draft, so we'll give you some last minute, what do the 49ers need to do? Anyways, have a great weekend. Hopefully it's sunny. Hopefully you guys have a good time. Bye.
Peace.